Boom, boom, boom. Week 10 is here, and I like the way it moves, baby. I got Hammer on board for another Stardom Situm Daily Fantasy Sports breakdown. Week 10 is bringing the same drama that all these other weeks brought. Christian McCaffrey is out again this week with a shoulder injury. We got Freeman out for the Giants this week. Who else do we have? We have Miles Sanders returning this week, which is a nice plus. Who else is out this week, Hammer? There's a long list of guys.
I just saw some. David Johnson might still be out. I don't know if he was cleared through concussion protocol yet.
I know that
Kenyon Drake a game time decision.
Kenyon Drake is supposedly going to start this week. Let's see who else is out. There's just so many players that are in and out of the lineups every day. It's just crazy. So Drake is more than likely going to play. Breida is questionable, but not expected to play this week. I know that Justin Jackson from the Chargers just got put on the IR. So this week, I mean, we're expecting Kalen Ballage to be like pretty much like the main carrier in San Diego, especially considering that Justin Kelly last week did not really look that good, and he got his workload reduced. Justin Jackson didn't even play, and Pope was out. So I think Pope being out really kind of messed up the backfield pecking order a little bit. But Kalen Ballage last week definitely went off and was the main back. So going into it this week, if he's on your wire and you're looking for someone, that's someone that you could definitely go after. Another player that's out this week, Chris Carson. Okay, running back from the Seahawks. You're looking at Travis Homer there, and you're looking at DJ Dallas. DJ Dallas is going to be the early down back, the goal line back, and then you have Homer as being the pass catching back and the guy that's going to be able to, with workflow, being in his direction, be the most impactful back there. But both of them are going to be hit or miss. Anything that you're seeing, or you want to touch on? Oh, Kenny Galladay is also out this week. Joey Bosa
again. Kenny G. God damn it.
Yep. Debo Samuel, Tevin Coleman, and Raheem Mostert are all out this week. Kyle Allen's out this week after that brutal hit last week from the Giants that pretty much I think ended the season with that ankle injury. Who else do we have that's playing or out this week? Oh, Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon was officially ruled out. And Giovanni Bernard is going to be the starter there again for this week. Like we said, Christian McCaffrey's out and Mike Davis is back in the lineup. And what another week of mayhem we have here, right?
Mm-hmm. Where's the State Farm guy or the Allstate guy? Whichever one is mayhem. I think that's Allstate. You get to have him make an appearance.
Yeah, like for real, because I don't know, man. I need some insurance in my team because shit, man. I don't feel like I'm in good hands anymore. Like it's rough out here, bro. I have a lot of squads where I'm just, I'm trying to, last and battle the war of attrition. And then every time I turn around, it's like I've been banking on Christian McCaffrey to come back all year. He comes back in his first game and he gets hurt. Now, I'm not gonna lie, everyone was saying that his collarbone was what looked like it was hurt initially. And that's scary because if he broke his collarbone in his first game back, I'm just chalking up the season to some sort of satanic ritual. Like something happened here because all the top guys are going down. I already lost Saquon. I had number one pick in 2 leagues. I lost Saquon in one and I lost McCaffrey in the other. So like this is one of the years that first pick sucks. Us people that drafted early, we got the bad end of the stick. But if we were able to last this long, we have a good shot in the playoffs because we have some studs turning. Like having a guy like Christian McCaffrey coming back for the playoffs is a big deal. Is there any players that you're really eyeing for this week or matchups that you're eyeing this week that you see good potential? To me, I'm looking at that Tampa Bay Carolina game and I'm looking at it as being an interesting game just because Carolina looked pretty decent versus the Chiefs last week. I think it was where they pushed them. The Chiefs almost lost that game. I'm wondering if Tampa Bay and Carolina, Tampa Bay hasn't been looking good the last 3 weeks. Is this an upset special brewing right here?
It could be potentially. Like that's how I'm looking at it. I was looking at the matchup. I was looking at the weather and everything as well. And considering what's going on down there in regards to last week's shock obliteration, I couldn't get over that. I'm looking at a running back in Mike Davis today since McCaffrey is out. The last time they met it was him airing the ball out a lot more than trying to run it, because Tampa's run game, their run defense is pretty damn solid, especially with their front seven. Like I spoke about them a couple of weeks ago when they played the Raiders in regards to linebacker Levante David, Dominican Sue, JPP. Like, yo, they send the dogs, man, and it's crazy to think that they're not going to do the same thing against an offense rather in Carolina that likes to run the ball a lot. But the last time they met, there was a lot of passing out of the backfield to the running backs. So I feel like Mike Davis could see another pretty decent numbers in regards to fantasy points today. We just have to wait and see how it plays out.
And they're also kind of, I don't know how to say it, but like, I'm interested in a guy like Curtis Samuel this week, just from the way they've been using him over the last couple of weeks. They've put him in the backfield and done like motion plays and quick draw plays and quick pass plays to him, where he can get out to the perimeter and use his speed and really show off why he was a combine superstar. And I think that's a player who's really not that well owned or not that much used in DFS, who might really provide value this week with no Christian McCaffrey back there, because Mike Davis is a really, solid running back. He would be like an RB2 this week to me. Even if you saw when he was back with McCaffrey last week, they had him like nice little dump offs, nice little quick ins, quick slants. They split him out wide, so he's gonna get work like a wide receiver almost at certain points in this game. Especially like Hammer said, this is a really good run defense that the Bucs have. So I really do see them, going to more sets where it's going to be more, because if you watch that game versus the Chiefs, it was a lot of Teddy Bridgewater stepping back, making a quick play, getting the ball out of his hand and keeping it moving down the field. And McCaffrey and Davis were getting catches all over the place. We saw Samuel have a good game. And they still have Anderson and DJ Moore. And DJ Moore is pretty much, disappeared this season, which is, killing a lot of fantasy owners. But overall, I think that's a decent offense there in Carolina. Wouldn't you think so? I think they're one of the better up and coming teams.
Definitely a surprise compared to what we saw in week one when they opened up against Vegas. They've definitely turned it around tremendously, especially with the offense. The defense I wasn't necessarily sold on, and I wasn't sold on going into the season with how many guys they brought back. It was like a very low number. I think anywhere between like 20 to 25% of their defense came back, and they lost Blake for retirement. Yeah, so it was. I was very optimistic, but I wasn't quite sure how they were going to look this coming season. But they're holding their own right now, and they continued to progress. Like we could see them, especially if they upset Tampa today, they could be in contention for a wild card in the NFC.
Yep, and I know Tampa was the early on favorite for like the NFC, but I think after the big win they had versus the Packers, I think they got a little too happy, and after that they started sliding because they almost lost to the Giants the next week. Like the Giants were in that game until the final play, and then the next week after that they got their doors blown off by the Saints, who everyone basically left for dead, and now they've basically been resurrected. Michael Thomas is back. Drew Brees' noodle arm looks like it's more of a dry noodle than a wet noodle, so that's a little helpful. And I think the Saints now are revving up to be probably the best team in the NFC, because that defense, it started off slow. That defense did not play well, but they have talent on that defense, which is the one thing that I think a lot of people were like, whoa, like when the Raiders were like, they were picking them apart in the secondary. But Marshawn Lattimore is no slouch. Like, he's not like a bad quarterback. So, and then you have guys like Cam Jordan off the edge who are, legit. They have Demario Davis, who's a really solid linebacker.
He's looked a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
Demario Davis has looked a hell of a lot better. Yeah. It seems that's what happened. So next thing will be Sam Darnold leaves the Jets and goes somewhere else, and it's going to be like, holy shit, who is this guy? Where did he come from?
I'll be honest with you. I just in my mind's eye, I just see Sam Darnold ending up in San Francisco and taking them to a title. Because if Sam Darnold ends up in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan and that offense and that defense, you're not telling this kid, like, I need you to go be a gunslinger, but you have weapons, and it's like, yo, we need to move the ball. Go. Let's pull the reins in, Sam. Let's run the ball. Let's do this. But when I need you, I need you. And I think that's the difference for Kyle, is if he had a quarterback that could fling it, San Francisco would be the top team, even with all their injuries. Because I'm sorry, Kyle Shanahan to me is really shown as his coaching acumen and being one of the top guys out there. And even this week, with all the guys out, and they're facing the Saints, I think it'll still be a decent matchup. And I'm expecting a guy like Ajuk to really blow up this week. I'm expecting them to get him the ball either in the backfield through short, quick passes. I feel like he's going to be the primary guy that they're going to make sure they get him the ball because he's their best playmaker right now. Now, we got a question here for Clamped Easy. Who are you starting this week? Tyler Boyd, Christian Kirk, or J.D. McKissic? I think Tyler Boyd is the must start here just because he's probably the number one receiver for Joe Burrows. Number two, Christian Kirk has been getting hot, and Arizona should have both their running backs back, and J.D. McKissic is basically the number two running back behind Gibson, but Gibson is starting to look better. Washington's going to be playing Detroit, and Detroit really doesn't have all their weapons this week. So I don't think it's going to really be too much of a shootout. So I would go with Kirk and Boyd, just because I don't think J.D. McKissic is going to get that much work because Anthony Gibson is going to have a good game flow where he'll be able to be the primary back end. If it was a situation where they maybe be blown out early or Washington would be down early, I would take J.D. McKissic just because he'll get more of the pass catching. But what are you thinking here, Hammer?
I like J.D. McKissic for the simple fact, he's widely available in the waiver wires. He's a top 35 running back right now in PPR. And since week 3, he's outsnapped Antonio Gibson in 5 of Washington's last 6 games. And he's been involved heavily as a pass catcher. Going back from the last couple of weeks, week 9 against the Giants, he put up 17.2, against Dallas, 7.1. Against the Giants again in week 6, 14.4. Against the Rams, 10.9. Against Baltimore, 11.6. That dude is pretty valuable today against the defense in Detroit, where this dude could definitely do work, especially with the injuries that Detroit has at this time.
Definitely. But let's just pull up one thing. Now, you said that what was the snap count for last week? Just curious.
Not even sure what the snap count was, but he's been out doing Gibson for the last 5 weeks, and his numbers show it too. I wouldn't put him as one of the starting running backs. I would definitely put him in as a flex, but I definitely see him having some upside today against Detroit as well.
See, if you look at Gibson's last couple of games, he had the game versus Dallas, he had 20 carries for 128 yards and a touchdown. That was the game where he really blew out McKissic. I think that's week 7. They won 25-3. Last week they lost 20-23 versus the Giants, and Gibson really didn't have that great of a game. He had 6 carries for 20 yards and a touchdown. But Gibson does have a touchdown in 5 of his 8 games. So Gibson has gotten some scoring going on. But I mean, J.D. McKissic, if you're going this low, definitely is someone that you could look at as being a viable option, especially in PPR. If it's not PPR, do not do that. Because that's the one caveat to McKissic is that he's a pass catcher. Like Hammer said, he's getting 6 catches, 7 catches. In a 1-point PPR, each catch is 1 point. So that makes him significantly more valuable in PPR than non-PPR. But definitely someone that you can go with. Let me just pull up one thing about Kirk stats. Christian Kirk. I know that he's been getting hot, Christian Kirk. If we remember last week, he had that big play last week, Christian Kirk had 5 catches for 123 yards and a touchdown. In versus Seattle, he had 5 catches for 37 yards and 2 touchdowns. And versus Dallas, he had 2 catches for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. Versus the Jets, he had 5 catches for 78 yards. And versus Carolina, he had 3 catches for 19 yards and a touchdown. So if you look at his last, I want to say 4 or 5 games, in his last 5 games, he scored 6 touchdowns. He's only gone over 100 yards once. He's only had, and he's had 3 games of 5 catches in that stretch. So Christian Kirk is really becoming a solid option with Murray. Murray's throwing the ball a little bit more than he did to start the season because he was very run happy to start. And Hopkins has been dealing with some injuries, which has kind of allowed Kirk to come in and start becoming kind of a baller, man. Last week, he really went off.
Murray, bro. He's in Arizona. He said Hopkins.
Hopkins is in Arizona too.
You know what? I just had a brain fart. My fault.
I'm like, yeah, because Hopkins has been hurt, and that's kind of been the reason why I think that Kirk has been starting to get more involved in this offense. And if you look at it, like I said, in his last 5 games, he has 6 touchdowns, and in his last 3 games, he has 5 touchdowns. So Kirk is getting hot. But now here's the thing: he had 5 catches in his last game, 5 catches in the game before that, and 2 catches in the game before that. But in the game with 2 catches, he had versus Dallas, he had 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'll show my screen too. He had 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. So if you look at Murray's, like, I mean, not Murray, but Kirk's last couple of games, he's on fire. Now the question is he going to keep that up? And if we saw Buffalo last week, their defense didn't seem that great. I think you have 3 good options. Tyler Boyd to me is the automatic. Kirk and McKissick based on the way you feel about the matchup, but to me, Kirk is really hot, and McKissick is probably the more solid play. Although if you look at Kirk, since week 3 when he was out, he scored 9 points or better in 1 point PPR. So
and yeah, if you're talking about starting the 2 of them, yeah, your best bet is definitely go with Boyd and Kirk at this time. Definitely.
Yeah. But again, everything always depends on game flow. So it could be a situation where JD does good. I think that's the one thing that we have to look at when we do rankings and make sure people know is like, yes, we could say and play the best matchup. Yes, we can analyze everything, but once the game starts, shit changes fast. And the guy that wasn't the number 1 projected guy can end up coming up, but you want to play the percentages because more than likely that's the way it works out. But just a little caveat to that. Now, I'm gonna bring it back to a little DFS because that's a big thing that we do here on Sundays. Is get you ready with some of the best values that we see in DFS and players that we're looking at. And again, if you guys have any additional questions for Start Sit, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll make sure that we answer them. But quickly, just out of curiosity, Hammer, is there any player, wide receiver, running back, tight end that you're looking at this week for daily sports or daily fantasy that you're interested in playing and starting?
In regards to the matchups, I'm looking at a main that I'm doing right now, and I'm still tinkering around with it right now. But like right now, what I have in my lineup is I got Carr of the Raiders versus Denver. Normally, I really don't like to go with guys on my team, but at times it does pan out. I got him. I got Aaron Jones against Jacksonville, who we know Jacksonville's defense is just there. Yeah. Kareem Hunt versus Houston. Their defense has not looked that great this year either, even with Dubois being their guy.
I think Chubb is back this week, right?
Yeah, I believe he is back, so they're probably going to split the carries again, but you can still put up some numbers. I got Michael Thomas against San Francisco, who's got an $80 million payroll on IR right now. I took Robert Woods against Seattle, their abysmal secondary. Chase Claypool against Cincinnati. Darren Waller against Denver again. He should definitely see some numbers today. I took the Giants defense. The flex is what I'm messing around with right now because I don't have that much money on my salary I might actually have to make a readjustment to see who I can take because I'm down at the bottom of the barrel right now looking, and yeah, these guys are valued at like 4,000, and it's not guys that we're going to see touch the field. So I'm going to have to make some adjustments on that ASAP.
Well, I'm in the process of building my lineup out as well, and I took a reverse approach from Hammer where I took like the bottom feeder guys first, and now I'm just gonna plug in the top guys. Usually that's the way I like to operate, just because, like Hammer said, once you start scraping the bottom of the barrel, you're like, well, I have to readjust because these people suck, and I can't put this guy in my lineup. So I like to try to get my low value guys in because each week there's certain guys that I like, and I usually do that because of injuries. So like Wayne Gallman to me is super interesting because of the fact that we're seeing Freeman is out. There is no Barkley. He's going to be the main guy. He's looked good over his last couple of weeks. If I could pull up his stats real quick for you guys so you can take a look here. Game log wise, 14, 12, and 13. Over his last 3 weeks, he scored a rushing touchdown in each of these games. He's gotten decent yardage. He can take a couple of catches. He had 5 catches in the game versus Philly last time. 5 targets. I'm assuming RE is receptions, but That could be wrong, but overall I like Wayne Gallman. He's been pretty solid, and he's at 5,700 in FanDuel, so he's not super expensive, and he should be the primary back. Mike Davis is another situation where there is no Christian McCaffrey this week, and they have reflected the pricing of Mike Davis as if McCaffrey was going to play, because he was a question mark all throughout the week. So I don't feel like he's been rebounded to what he would have normally cost. And again, like Hammer said, this was a good matchup for him the first time they played. Again, he's 5,400, so he's not that expensive. His last couple of games, he's thrown some duds up. He looks like he's finally shown the wear and tear. But in his last game, he had 5 catches for 34 yards. They used him at the end of the game in passing packages when they were moving down the field. His last game versus Tampa, he had 11.5. I believe that was the game that no, they started the season with Oakland, so he got hurt versus Oakland. McCaffrey did. No, McCaffrey got hurt week 2.
No, he got hurt in week 2. He got hurt.
I think in the Tampa game. Was it in the Tampa game? Hold on one second.
It was.
We'll find out for you right now, guys.
But Mimsy's got a question. With Irv Smith out, would you play Kyle Rudolph over Mike Gesicki? No, I would take Mike Gesicki, hands down. Tua's taken over the reins over in Miami, and he looked really good last week. I definitely see Gesicki as like a safety blanket target for Tua, just like most of the quarterbacks in the league with their tight ends right now. Looking at the comparison numbers and looking at the matchup as well. I mean, you're going against a defense in the Chargers that just they look good for like the first 3 quarters, and then they shoot themselves in the foot time and time again. Like Herbert in that offense is constantly putting up points, and you saw what happened last week. I think that muff punt is what really killed them. That the Chargers, that is, and then they drove it down the field with 6 seconds left on the goal line, pretty much. Herbert throws it up and incomplete pass. It was a play that was reviewed. Thank God that was ruled incomplete. But I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the matchup. You're going to get Rudolph is going against a Bears defense. It's really not that bad, but it's an even matchup with their opponents in the Chargers and the Bears today. But I see the season totals and everything in fantasy points. Gesicki has Rudolph by a lot.
Well, Rudolph is
nearly like double.
Well, no, what he's saying is Rudolph is out this week and Irv Smith is in. So that's kind of why he's talking about Irv Smith, because Irv Smith last week he went off a little bit.
He has Irv. No, he said with Irv Smith out.
Oh, right. I'm sorry.
Would you play Rudolph over Gesicki? I would definitely take Gesicki. And would you start for full PPR? Would you start Gordon, Mooney, or Rieger? Not Gordon. Gordon is on a serious slide right now, and I was just reading about him before. He is actually a guy you do not want to start today. Let me see if I can pull up what I saw before.
Yeah, before we get to that though, I don't think that Kyle Rudolph is necessarily a bad play this week. Like, especially he's yet to top 50 yards and watch Irv Smith. The way that Kirk Cousins uses his tight ends, though, I mean, ordinarily Kyle Rudolph is a very solid tight end, and I know that we're talking about Tua, but if you look at Gesicki's last 4 games, he has the 1 game at 11 or 5 games. He has 2, 11, 0, 1, and 5. In his 2 games with Tua, he has 4 targets for 50 yards. So that does scare me a little bit. Now, I do think that Tua is going to start coming up. I do think that Tua has good opportunity. But I'll be honest with you, man. He's a very touchdown dependent option. He's a middle of the road tight end too. I'm not really the most excited about him. If you're gonna try to catch lightning in the bottle, I would say Kyle Rudolph would be the play, just because I don't have faith in the like. I feel like Gesicki might be the safer play because he's more talented than Rudolph. But with the way Cousins and Rudolph have that rapport, I can easily see Rudolph getting a touchdown here. I think this is a lot closer, but it really depends on what your lineup is. If you feel like you have a really good team and you just need to get some basic points, I would go with Gesicki. If you're going for the home run, I would go Rudolph. I do think he catches a touchdown this week with no Irv Smith, because if you look at the way Irv Smith was being used, they were using him in the red zone. He got those couple of touchdowns. I think that's just going to be an interesting play. And then to what Henry was saying about Mimsy, Melvin Gordon, Darnell Mooney, and Jalen Rieger, I think that's an interesting thing. I think Melvin Gordon has to be in there just because of the fact that
because it's Melvin Gordon. Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing with the Raiders. And again, this is me I'm not favoring them at all, but Gordon, the Broncos have the appeal against the Raiders because they have allowed the fourth most fantasy points to running backs. Mm-hmm. Gordon's recent usage in rushing yards and efficiency has dropped significantly. Yep. He's now in the red in terms of yards created over expected for the season. Even in a pass-friendly situation against Atlanta last week, he only saw a single target.
Yep.
Lindsey has been far more productive, and it seems that Vic Fangio is now starting to realize that. Lindsey gives his team a better chance to win. Gordon simply can't be trusted to have enough touches to warrant like a running back 2 consideration at this point. Making him merely he's making himself merely a touchdown dependent running back, like more or less like a flex. So if you want to take the chance, yeah, use him as a flex, but I wouldn't have him as a starting running back today.
Well, I mean, for Gordon, Mooney, and Rieger, it seems like it is a flex conversation that we have here, because Rieger, I think has great upside, but this week I think Alshon Jeffrey should be back. You have Miles Sanders that's going to be back. You have Fulgham, who's the number 1 wide receiver there. You have Dallas Goedert there. I think that's going to be a very interesting situation to see who becomes the target leader and if Fulgham can maintain his target lead share, because when you look at the Philly offense, they're finally getting all their pieces together. So we have to really kind of understand how they're going to use it, because we haven't seen it in action. Like, how much are they going to depend on Miles Sanders? How much are they going to go to Jeffrey? I don't think Jeffrey's going to be that big of an option. Is Rieger going to start taking over Fulgham? Because the way Fulgham is played, he's probably the number 1 wide receiver on that team with the most chemistry going into this game than any of the other wide receivers. So it's a little iffy on that. And then if you're looking at Mooney, Mooney last week he got a decent amount of action. I know he had a decent amount of targets. I've been watching this kid for most of the season, but my God, Nick Foles scares the shit out of me, bro. Whenever I'm watching that guy play, I'm just like, yo, how did you win a Super Bowl? I just don't get it. And if you look at it, like Mooney in his he has 5'10", 5'5", 15.4, and 6.8 points in his last 4 games. Last week, though, is what has everyone just kind of like really looking at it, is because he had 11 targets and he had 5 catches. But if you look at that, 11 targets for 5 catches really isn't that good to only put up 43 yards. Like, that's not that great. And I know he's an explosive player, and I know that Minnesota has a shitty secondary. So he is like, would you say a Hail Mary throw? He's your Hail Mary. So if you need safe, I go with Gordon. Because of all the reasons that Jeff said, I am down on Gordon, but I think Gordon is safer than this. But
if like I said, if it's a flex, then yeah, shoot your shot. Because the other thing is, in regards to Rieger today against the Giants, it's supposed to rain up here in Jersey and MetLife. Right. That's good. Right. We had this conversation over and over again the last few weeks, and weather plays a serious factor where they're probably going to rely more on the run game, and the same thing is going to go for the Cleveland game today as well.
Yep.
Those winds are going to be just as bad as they were in Week 8 when Cleveland played Vegas. You're going to see a lot more running than you are passing, because you saw only like 220 something yards total in the air during that game about 2 weeks ago.
Yep. So I would say it's definitely between Gordon and Mooney. Again, I go with Gordon if you need a safe option just to get you some guaranteed points. I go with Mooney if you're looking for a home run, because he could catch a touchdown. He could make an explosive play. Gordon maybe could fall into the end zone for a touchdown, but like Hammer's saying, we're seeing Lindsey be the more effective ball carrier, and we're seeing that Vic Fangio is finally starting to move towards a Philip Lindsay being the main back. But again, that's really more depending on who you have on the rest of your roster. If you want to break that down for us, we'll give you a better answer, but that's what we got for you now. And David Oliver said, pick one standard flex: Duke Johnson, Devontae Parker, Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, this is interesting because this week we do have David Johnson is out in Houston. So Duke Johnson is going to be the lead back. Okay. Devontae Parker, I'll tell you this: ever since Tua's taken over, we haven't seen Devontae Parker blow up in any of those two games, but you have to feel some sort of like almost like it's time. It's time that it's going to start happening. Like it's eventually going to get there. So I'm not going to say that I'm down on Parker yet, but I am watching him. Juju Smith-Schuster is kind of in the same situation. They have so many wide receivers in Pittsburgh. You never know each week who's going to be the number one guy. Between Claypool and Washington, they've been really dominating, and it feels as though Juju's dropped to a 3. With the fact that you're going to have Duke Johnson being the number one back this week with David Johnson out, I think it has to be Duke Johnson. What do you think, Amber?
I would take Duke Johnson, but I'm also considering Juju just because of the matchup. Where do I just had it up. I'm looking at the matchup. I'm looking at the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland isn't that bad. I do like the appeal of Duke Johnson, but I'm not fully sold. I need to see him start a full week and see what kind of production he has. And going into this week might be that week to see what he does. But out of those three guys, I have Juju Smith-Schuster. And somebody just asked, between quarterbacks, do you take Tua over Big Ben? No. Nope. I'm taking Big Ben today over Cincy. So honestly, if I'm doing between those two, the two questions that you guys just asked, I would take Ben and I would take Juju.
I mean, I just think that the volume there for Duke Johnson just makes him so much safer than Juju. That'll be my thing. I just like the volume situation of a RB1 versus Juju, who's in a situation where you like, yes, he could blow up this week. I'm not saying no. He definitely has the opportunity against that bad Cincinnati defense. But between Connor, Ebron, him, and all the other guys, we don't know who's going to be the guy.
But especially if it's a flex, and I've said this, like you and I have had this conversation, I normally like to go with a running back for the flex over a receiver just for the simple fact of production and how much more touches they'll have over a receiver most likely. So I do look at it that way, unless you are trying to plug in Juju as a receiver. But David, you did say flex, and so I would definitely. I would go with Duke Johnson. Then.
Yeah, it's only because he's starting this week. That's the only reason why. Because normally he would not be this high, but him being the main back versus Cleveland, he'll still get catches, he'll still get runs, so he'll get his yards up. I know that you're not getting PPR scoring, but in a standard scoring league, I still think that Duke Johnson is a safer bet than either one of those two guys. Not saying they're necessarily bad plays, but if you're giving me these three, I do think that Duke is the safest. And then this is what Hammer was talking about before, what Mimsy said. With it being so windy in Cincy, would you start Tua over Big Ben? And Hammer's, sticking with Big Ben. For me in FanDuel, I'm running with Tua just because I do think it's a decent matchup for him. They're playing, let me pull it back up. They're playing the Chargers, and the Chargers defense, like Hammer has been saying, has been bad. David, no problem at all. I hope you have a great Sunday. And if you need any help, feel free to come by and check us out every Sunday as we do start, sit, and daily fantasy breakdowns for everyone. Best of luck, David. What I was going to say is, I mean, like you said, the Chargers defense is bad. They're bad. And Tua, I mean, if it's Tua time, it's Tua time. You know what I mean? So I'm rolling with Tua in daily, but again, you really can't go wrong either way because Ben is a big time scorer. I just want to see one thing so I can see, because again, Tua is a little bit more of a risk because you haven't seen him as much. I know Ben has been a little bit down over the last couple of weeks. I had to drop him in my league, but last week he went off versus Dallas for 306 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 182 and 2 touchdowns before that, 268 and 2. I mean, I think Ben is still so solid that it's hard to replace him anywhere.
Even though they almost lost. Jesus. I couldn't get over that. I thought it was going to be a blowout. And
I can't believe that. You're welcome, Dave. Thank you very much. I just wanted to shout out our great followers. But yeah, man, it's great that we get to help people out on these Sundays because I think that's the best part about it, Hammer. I mean, that's my favorite part is that, all these guys have such questions like, like us, because when when me and Hammer like have questions, or me and Ricky, or me and the other guys, we debate with each other. We'll talk about it. Be like, yo, I'm thinking about this matchup. Well, this and well that. And it's good because sometimes you won't think of something that someone else will bring up, or you might be thinking something and then you bring it to their attention, and then they can kind of like be like, well, you're right, and then almost get that reinforcement for what you're saying. But I always think in fantasy, it's good to get other people's opinions just so you get more data. But at the end of the day, you have to go with the lineup and what's your gut feeling and what you're expecting. So, I mean, that's what's carried me to my championships over the last couple of years. I've had over a 60% winning percentage in fantasy for the last 3 years running. Got 3 teams running for the championship this week. I think I'll start doing some breakdowns just of my teams as we get in because, some content. I don't know. But yeah, did you get any clarification on your DFS ending final spot, Hammer, or did that you didn't get a chance to?
Now I'm sitting here looking at my lineup and I'm making like adjustments now for the main. And I got Tua, Aaron Jones, Kareem Hunt, Michael Thomas, Robert Woods. I got a fill-in spot right now for the receivers I got to look at. I'm actually going to go with Jasicki and Phillip Lindsay over Gordon today. And the Giants defense, believe it or not, because they've looked pretty solid these last few weeks. And against an offense in Philly that's kind of just been up and down, I wonder if they're regretting not re-signing or making Nick Foles a starter, but you know what? That's a story for a different day.
All right, so I just finished up my lineup, and here's what we got. I got Tua starting at quarterback. I got Wayne Gallman and Mike Davis at running back. My wide receivers are Keenan Allen, Robert Woods, and Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin at 7,000. I don't know what the hell is that's about, but sign me up. Dallas Goedert, I got him. That's a little bit of a risky matchup, but I just don't really trust, it's not that I don't trust the Giants. It's that I do expect Dallas to do better than he did last week with only the one target on so many dropbacks. He basically played, they were 63 dropbacks and he played 53 of them. So he got a significant amount of time on the field. He just didn't do anything with it. I do expect that to change. I'm running with the big boy at wide receiver. I'm going with Devontae Adams, and I currently have the New Orleans Saints over San Francisco.
Whoa. You're going with Devontae Adams today?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Wow. Something I don't know.
Let's go back to this. Where are we at? Let me find it for you because this is going to be another one that we have this conversation over and over again, week in, week out.
I just want to say 28.3, 26.8, 38.1 in his last 3 games, bro.
I get that.
13, 7, and 10 targets. Oh my God.
This friggin' stupid polar vortex is hitting Green Bay today.
What?
And yeah, they're getting hit with a polar vortex. Don't ask me what it is because I'm not a freaking meteorologist.
It's kind of like how the lake effect snows in Buffalo, I'm assuming.
I guess. Let's find a meteorologist. We'll find out. But what would normally be a relatively mild 37-degree day in Green Bay, it's going to be closer to 25 degrees at kickoff due to the winds increasing in velocity as they approach kickoff. Sustained winds are expected to be in the 24 to 28 mile an hour range, with gusts pushing closer to 45 miles an hour and possibly close to 50 at their peak. There's also a chance to see some snow falling during the game. Given the current timing of the forecast, it appears that most of it will be out of the area by the time kickoff rolls out, but don't be surprised if we see some light snow flurries during the game today.
And that was an easy decision. Thank you for the update here, sir. Because damn, I didn't see that one coming. Polar vortex in Green Bay, people. Avoid them in DFS if you can. I'm taking big back Aaron Jones because I can.
That's the only reason I saw. When I first looked at running back sales, and I saw the weather forecast, I'm like, Aaron Jones. Like, this isn't even up for debate. Go with Aaron Jones. If Devontae Parker puts up points, puts up some serious points, I apologize. But with that weather, I don't. I wouldn't chance that.
This makes me James Robinson so fucking interesting to me. 7,300. Can I swing him?
I'm debating. Do I swing the defense right now and move up because I have $500 left in the bank? Like, I have Tua, Jones, Hunt, Thomas, Robert Woods. I'm taking Ruggs. I feel like he's gonna go off in Vegas now that they're home again. They'll probably get a nice deep ball. Jasecki, Phillip Lindsay, and the Giants defense. So We shall see.
What do you think of did you hear the rumor that Jalen Ramsey said that he's not going to be shadowing DK Metcalf this week, and that he's going to be playing just more all over the field and versus being on a lockdown shadow?
I feel like he's talking shit because that's all he does.
That shit freaks me out, bro. Because I'm like, I have DK in one league, I have Lockett in the other, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, yo, that game plan could be crazy. Because like,
I thought about using DK as well, but I'm just like,
yeah.
Do I take that risk right now against them? Like,
I know exactly what you mean. It's a little bit tricky. But like if we see here with all this extra money I have, I mean, it's just fuck to a time. We're going back. We're married. Like I just can't, bro. I'm not gonna pass that up with not taking Jones and taking James Robinson instead because of the same thing. He's playing in Green Bay. That the Green Bay Packers have been shit versus the run. I think we've seen that all throughout the season. I think Cook had 200 yards versus them the other week.
Would you really start Michael Thomas today?
I would. I mean, in real life, yes. In fantasy, I mean, in daily, if I had the cash for it, I would. But I just don't know.
Dude's valued at 8,500 right now. Like, do I waste that money or do I go with somebody a little cheaper? Like, this is the things that mess with me sometimes, and then I second guess myself, and I feel like a jackass at the end of the day.
Yep. I know exactly what you mean. Like, part of me, I like the Eagles defense. I'm starting the Eagles defense in regular fantasy. I think the Dolphins defense has been on fire.
Yeah, they have been. And you know what? Now that you're mentioning that, well, they've been on fire, but you're playing into an offense. Herbert.
I know.
Herbert, that connection with Herbert and Allen has been ridiculous. And last week, the numbers that Allen put up, I don't know about that.
I'll say this though: the last times they played two good quarterbacks, Arizona and Seattle.
That's true.
3 points for Seattle, 8 points for Arizona. But
that's true.
The defense is getting better. I just honestly, I don't think I could do it just because, again, it's a situation where Miami's an interesting play, but I'm not going to tempt fate because Herbert has been balling, bro. And this is a matchup between the 5th and the 6th pick. So I think it could very much be, Herbert coming in with that chip on his shoulder, like, oh, they think that you're better than me. And he just comes out and balls. But
that's the same thing. That's the same thing with the matchup in Vegas today between two former Alabama teammates in Judy and Ruggs. Like, it's going to be a very interesting game, and
I'm starting.
I don't know if it's bragging rights for them. You're starting who?
In my other
league, you really starting Drew Lock?
I got Mahomes on a bye, and I was looking at everything there. And Drew Lock had a great game last week. I hate to say
it. You're so disrespectful.
I have no choice, bro. I got no choice. I'm hoping. I need Noah Fant to catch like 2 touchdowns. Like, I think that's
all right. Shut your whore mouth. First off,
I want Noah Fant to get it in, bro. I want him to get it in.
I know you like your chips with the dip, but don't do that right now. Do not do that. Don't do that right now. I'm telling you now.
Gonna lie, bro. This is going to be a tough game for the Vegas just because I think that Drew Lock's getting a little hot. If Carr can keep the offense on schedule and get his points in, they win this game. But
the offense has been solid. It's been our defense has been shit in the bed week in, week out. We're averaging like giving up 30 points a game.
But that's what I'm saying. If you guys can keep scoring and keep the points up, it's going to put so much pressure on the Broncos where they're going to have to come back. And when you look at Drew Lock, if he's in a situation where you may have to make him throw and make him a throw, you're going to get interceptions. You're going to be able to get opportunities. So if you can keep scoring and putting the pressure on the Broncos to have to go out there and score, I think you win this game running away. Now, if it's a situation where that Denver defense kind of slows you down a little bit and they don't have to put Lock into such adverse situations and they can run more Lindsey and they can do more things where they don't have to go big downfield, I think it puts them in a situation where, the Broncos can pull this out. So really the Raiders offense is going to be the reason why they win this game. I feel like that's going to be the key.
Just like it was last week. It came down to our defense in the very last play, though, with Isaiah Johnson, who John Gruden pretty much baptized after that game. He definitely came in and definitely helped a lot towards the end of that game. And I'm definitely thankful for that.
Now, as we get ready to wrap up here on this Sunday, I want to bring up one last thing because me and Hammer, we have an intense rivalry when it comes to this fantasy sports stuff. He's a Josh Jacobs truther, and I'm a Miles Sanders believer.
Well, the bet's already over because your boy's been hurt the entire season. So
and he's finally coming back this week. He is valued a little bit higher than Josh Jacobs. But what do you make of what's going on with Booker? Last week again,
Booker actually has gotten me hyped watching him run. Bro. And like that first carry he had last week, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, like, and they mentioned this, I think it was 2 weeks ago when he had a couple of good carries. It's like, yo, Booker is eating, and when Jacobs is on the sideline sees him eating, he's like, okay, it's my turn now. They both had a touchdown each. They both put up actually equal numbers in regards to rush yards last week. So I like them. I'm not going to be like, oh, no. The one thing that has worked over the last decade and a half has always been an offense that runs with a two-headed monster.
You know what that means, though? In fantasy. Now, we're not talking about real
life. Of course. Yeah.
In fantasy, Josh Jacobs is...
But that's the same thing. That's the same thing. The same conversation we've had in regards to running backs. Not running backs. Receivers on the same team that are getting equal distribution as well. One will be hot 1 week, and then the other one's hot the next week.
Some, they're not all created equal. Some are there. They're both like.
Here we go. Seattle, Metcalf, Lockett, Rams, Kupp, Woods.
Kupp has been.
Woods has been more carrying the load recently. Yeah. But like you look back to last season, and
Lockett's had some huge games, and then he's had some games where you're like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's for, and you know what? This will go to running backs too, because you see that in certain teams where like you got people that are jumping off the bridge right now because of Jonathan Taylor with the Colts. They're like, yo, what the hell did I do? I'm quitting fantasy. I'm quitting fantasy football.
There, get him.
Like, I'm jumping off the bridge now. Why did I get Taylor? Like, I'm quitting fantasy football, da-da-da-da-da. But, like, that's exactly what it is. Like, it's by committee on a week-to-week basis. And people need to start looking at it more that way.
Unless you're Miles Sanders, when you're the solo back and you dominate. Miles Sanders is going to put in work today, bro. Miles Sanders, baby. I think
you're hype. Hold on. You're hype over Miles Sanders putting in work against your Giants.
Doesn't mean they have to win the game.
Oh, hell no. You're an idiot. You know what?
Listen.
You're a fraud. You're a fraud.
No, because let's be honest here. My take on Miles Sanders is more important than the Giants' record this season because we suck anyway.
Your take could be high on him, but our bet is already over because of his injuries. So you know what? It is what it is.
But at the same time, my man can still outscore Jacobs for the rest of the season.
We got the fourth easiest schedule remaining. He could freaking put up some numbers towards the end of the season.
You got a split backfield now. Now it's Booker
which is fine.
Jacobs is not a lead back.
When Jacobs gets the hot hand and starts putting up those numbers again, you're gonna be like, holy shit! What didn't he put up 130 yards 2 weeks ago? He didn't score a touchdown, but he put up 130 yards 2 weeks ago.
It was only because of the wind.
Guess what? The weather played in his hands.
You're right.
It played in his favor.
You're right. But is he a bell cow? Is he a bell cow?
What?
Is he a bell cow back?
Yes.
I don't know, bro. Yes. I don't know, bro. I'm watching Booker play, and Booker looks just as good as him. Right?
Booker stepped up.
Last couple
That's
of
all
weeks.
It was because like you see who's faded. Jalen Richard is faded, and he was looking good at the beginning of the season. He is faded. They're using him primarily now as a kick returner, and that's it.
Yeah, but I mean, so who do you see? Who do they use more in pass catching situations, Booker or Jacobs, or is it just kind of like riding the hot hand? And they'll say
it's riding the hot hand. It is legit riding the hot hand right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen both of them. I've seen both of them out there on third down situations. Mm-hmm. So it's who has the hot hand. They're doing it by committee. So it is what it is. Mm-hmm. I'm a little disappointed, and shout out to my guys at Spotlight that I'm not going to be able to be doing the live play-by-play with them. Last week we had such a blast doing it, and shout out to Jay, shout out to Sonny. Jake, who's a Chargers fan, came on with us after, he had us in tears, man. He was so upset. He's a diehard Charger fan, and we let him have it at the end of that game. It was pretty
that
funny.
also was on YouTube, right? It was Spotlight Sports.
Spotlight Football Talk. Spotlight Raider Talk with Jay. That was all on YouTube. You can find them on Facebook as well at Spotlight Sports Network. We're definitely enjoying our relationship with them. It started with one simple conversation after I started seeing them do Strictly Raiders, and I fell in love. Like, I was like, yo, we got to do something with this.
Facts,
so yeah,
bro.
shout out to those guys. Make sure to check them out as well. You could even check them out shortly. They should be doing their predictions, their pregame predictions, and I think almost all of them should be live today doing play-by-play. So check them out on Facebook this afternoon. They might be going live within the next half hour or so. And yeah, it's really it.
Yeah.
Bro, you know what? I don't have it yet, but I want to give a shout out to SoHoodie.com. It's a kid from Long Island that started this line. All it is strictly like these hoods that you wear. Like, this was something that they got the idea from. Their story was from CC Sabathia, but I don't know if anybody, you would see Cam Newton on the sideline with this towel over his head like a hood. So they took that into play and made a line out of it. And right now they got a deal with the NFL where they're doing NFL ones. They have custom ones you can make. You can put your own design on it, your own number. I've seen a lot of athletes, a lot of NFL athletes are on their Instagram right now rocking the stuff. I ordered a Raider one the other day. I ordered another one that has a face mask. You know, when we're out and about during this pandemic, we can cover our face and our heads. And I just want to give a shout out to them. I spoke to, I think it was Matt I spoke to the other day, and I told him I would make sure to give a shout out to them. So keep this whole pandemic going on. We got to support our local and small businesses, and that's what we're doing right now, yo.
Amen. Especially to all those small businesses that are out there, you know. We know these times are tough, and any way that we can try to help, even if it's just by giving you a little bit of you know, what limited audience we have, you know, letting them know about you guys, you know, is definitely what I feel like is the right thing to do, especially since it's you know, a place from our hometown. So, you know,
and one more now that I'm thinking about it, because like I'm practically a junkie for this stuff. For anybody that's in here watching right now from Long Island, check out Fat Boy Burritos on Merrick Road in Belmont. I'm telling you now, because I don't know if Tacos had one yet.
Not yet.
These burritos are crack, man. They do deliver in mostly like the South Shore of Nassau County. They've actually delivered to my hospital in the Bronx a couple of times. They've really taken care of me. So shout out to Christina, shout out to Tony. But the burrito was the most important meal of the day, man. And you can put anything and everything you can put in there. I'm telling you, it looks like a newborn baby. You can legit cradle these burritos under one arm. That's how amazing they are. And shout out to them as well.
And since we're giving shout outs, I'll give a shout out to my local Old Navy, where I found this bomb ass Reptar shirt. What you see, I got the green screen set up in the background, but like he looks great on my shirt. So, you know, shout out to Nickelodeon for giving me a great childhood. Shout out to Old Navy for the buy one, get one 50% off. And yeah, man, shout out to you guys for coming through and being great every single week, coming through and giving us some support as we try to, you know, help get people through these tough waters of the fantasy football season. We have basketball, which is going to be coming up real quick. We're going to be doing content covering the Knicks draft perspective, and we're going to be covering fantasy basketball as well. We do all the fantasy sports, and we win titles everywhere. So baseball, basketball, football, we got you covered with the best of the best. And Hammer, can you lead us out of this one with our patented little phrase here at the end here?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, make sure to wash your hands and your asses.
Peace.